What's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy. It is the Emerald Enthusiast, back with another action figure review. This time I'm taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends figure of the one and only She-Hulk. The front of the packaging is based on the logo that we saw introduced during Disney Plus Day 2021. On each side of the packaging, we get some attractive artwork of She-Hulk. Likewise, on the back, we get some really cool artwork. We also see headshots of the various figures available in this wave, as well as the fully assembled Infinity Ultron. The back also features a brief bio of She-Hulk. If you would like to read any of these, please pause the video and do so now. We get product information on the bottom. We see this really cool looking She-Hulk logo on the top. This figure was produced before Hasbro went with the windowless packaging. You can see the Ultron Build-A-Figure piece as well as the alternate set of hands. But now I can wait no longer. It's time to bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. And here we see the She-Hulk out of the package and ready to rumble. She-Hulk Attorney at Law has been my favorite Marvel Disney Plus series so far, and I also think that this is one of the best Marvel Legends figures ever produced. However, I do think there are a couple of areas that could have used improvement. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the loose details now. Here's a quick look at the Ultron Build-A-Figure piece. Here is the alternate set of hands, and of course these are the fists, and these are sculpted well, and of course they come on a hinged peg, and I do appreciate the inclusion of these. However, there is something that I would have liked even more. This smile is just so radiant and so indicative of the characterization of She-Hulk on the show that I really wish we would have gotten this as an alternate head sculpt. Let's have a look at the lower body now. And she comes with the sneakers. And I do like the detail on these. Solid paint applications, nice and tight there. Good sculpting details. You can feel the various sections if you're holding one of these figures. She comes with portholes underneath here, so if you have an extra peg stand lying around, you can put her on one of those. The musculature, for the most part, I feel like that's accurate. There's good definition in the quadriceps. Back here in the hamstrings, for the most part. Perhaps the hamstrings and the calf muscles could have used a little bit more definition, but that's a very minor criticism. I do think that the legs look good overall. However, I feel like the figure is just a shade too light when it comes to her skin. Now, I looked at some of the early images of She-Hulk versus some of the finished images from the series when it aired, and I feel like they gave her more definition over time. So maybe I shouldn't fault Hasbro here because they were probably working with some very early images. But overall, I don't think that there are issues with the lower body when it comes to aesthetics. With the articulation, there are more positives than negatives. You can get her ankle to move forward and backward that much. There's also pivoting here, so I do appreciate that. She has the double jointed pinless knees, so if you want to get her into a running pose, you certainly can. That looks really good. One of the things I really like about this figure is that because of the costume, she has the quadriceps swivel, and it doesn't look as weird as it does with other figures because with the way the costume is designed, she doesn't have details on the side of her quadriceps here that don't line up when you pivot the legs, so that looks really good. You can get her to kick forward, and I think that's a good amount of articulation. The hips are good, not great. I feel like that could have been a little bit wider. That's a pretty good, deep side-kicking stance, but I still would have preferred just a little bit more there. And unfortunately, you can't really get her to step back. There's a little bit there, but the hip area blocks that. But overall, again, more positives than negatives when it comes to the lower body articulation. Let's have a closer look at the torso now. And you can see as I move the figure around and the light kind of hits it in different ways, there are different textures to the costume, and I really appreciate that. You can see the various lines that have been sculpted in on the various sections of this costume. And I really like the way this came off on screen. It was functional, and at the same time, it was unique. I thought it had a lot of energy to it, and it matched the character's personality. So I really like what the show did with her costume here. You can see the lines that have been sculpted in here on the sides. You can feel the edges on this. If you were holding this figure, you can feel the edges. This feels like it could have gone wrong very easily with how tight some of the details are on the design of the costume, but at least with this one, I got really good paint applications. In terms of articulation, she has the upper torso swivel, which gives you some options as far as posing her. You can get her to rock back that far. You can get her to crunch forward. And again, there's plenty of movement there. She does move freely from side to side, but it just feels weird for her to not have any waist articulation at all. I really would have preferred something down here, and perhaps it has something to do with all of these complex lines. That's why Hasbro decided not to go with any waist articulation. As we have a look at the arms here, there's good sculpting here on the forearms. She has the pinless double-jointed elbows. Good sculpting here on the triceps and the biceps. Likewise on the deltoids here. I think the arms look really good. Very accurate to what we saw on the series. In terms of articulation, there's plenty of good movement here at the wrist. With the elbows, you can get her arm to pretty much fold in half. They do look a little weird, but that does give you some posing options. She has the bicep swivel. You can get her shoulder to go up that far. That's more than I expected there. There's 360 degrees of rotation, and you can get her arms to go outward this far in the big power pose. And jazz hands. And here she is with the alternate set of hands, ready to lay the smackdown She-Hulk style. Here is a close-up of the head sculpt, and Hasbro did an outstanding job at capturing the likeness of Tatiana Maslany. You can see there's plenty of emotion in the eyes, even though this is a neutral expression. Good paint applications on the eyebrows and the lips. I believe the shape of the face is accurate. There's plenty of detail in the hair here. It's been sculpted very well, but you can see that they have these green highlights that run all the way through the black sections, and that just gives the hair an element of realism. In terms of articulation, you can get her to look side to side. There's some minor hindrance with the hair. You can get her to look down pretty well. You can get her to look up just a little bit, and there is some head tilting. I certainly hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for some articulation shots, and also remember to catch me on the Multiverse Musings vidcast, available right here on YouTube. And I'll be back to the internet with more comic book related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.